Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be presenting my argument for why I think that Bitcoin has ended this bear market decline, ended this downtrend, and we're going to be looking at a variety of indicators, most notably the relative strength index and the fact that we have seen a pretty major break of diagonal resistance. We'll talk about some weekly moving averages as well as the longer term formation of this deviation below the $18,000 level of support. So if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, by the way, I will leave a link to my Twitter page in the description below. Feel free to go ahead and check that out as well. I am fairly active over there with crypto content. So the first thing that I want to cover here on this weekly chart is the break above both of these two weekly moving averages, the 20-week simple moving average and then the 21 weekly exponential moving average. And I'd like to consider them as a band, and when we were below them during the bear market, we saw this as a band of resistance where Bitcoin rejected off this level right here in December on this first leg below it. We rejected right here in March and April on this second attempt, the lower high that we formed right around 47, 48K. And then lastly, this attempt right here in October, which was the last sort of phase before that FTX crash, that FTX saga, where we saw the move all the way down to the lows around $15,500. But over the last few weeks, we have seen a break back above that level for the first time really since the peak back in November of 2021. You could argue we did have that move above it in March and April, but do consider that it was only about one weekly candle close above this. The next following week, we're right back under it, flipping it into resistance. And that definitely looks different to where we are today with the fact that we do have two full candle bodies back above these weekly moving averages. And we're starting to see them slope back upwards. So this is a much more convincing breakout. This is a lot more confirmed, mainly because we do have, again, the weekly closes, the moving average is starting to slope back upwards, and the formation of a higher high where we rejected at back here in October. So overall, there's a lot of bullish signs playing out here, and this is just one of them. And the reason this is bullish is because, again, that has been the resistance that we've seen throughout this bear market. That is the same level that we had a lot of sellers in supply coming in on these lower highs. And if we go back here to the previous bear market and look at the price action from back here in 2018 and 2019, it was really the same exact story. We saw resistance right here in the 2018 bear market, several rejections, same story. And then eventually when we had that last capitulation, Bitcoin formed that low and then started to reclaim it. And once Bitcoin was able to come back above these moving averages, that did mark a longer term bottoming signal where we had cemented the 4-year cycle lows and started to reverse from there. We eventually broke back below it, but the point is it was no longer resistance. We hadn't had that act as resistance. We didn't see a rejection off of it because we had shifted the momentum and that was no longer gaining any traction. So going back here to today, again, it is a very similar looking pattern with the break back above these, with the upward slope, and the fact that we have taken out some of those lower highs. Along this, we do have the relative strength index, which if I make this panel a little bit bigger here, you can see that we have ended this major 2-year-long downtrend on the RSI where we had the formation of lower highs and lower lows ever since the peak back on the RSI in January of 2021 when the RSI was around 95. So we were extremely overbought on this big rally up to $42,000, and ever since then the RSI has been in this very long decline, again around 2 years with that January 2021 peak, ever since the breakout point about January 2023. So you can see this is a fairly significant pattern on the macro scale. And again, we saw those lower highs off the trend line several times coming up to this level. And over the last few weeks, the strength has been pretty bullish. We have seen a reclaim of the 50 point. So we're back into that neutral territory. We're no longer at the extremes, and we have cemented a breakout to this where we're no longer forming those lower highs and lower lows. In fact, we have made a higher high coming back above this move right here in March. So at this point, Bitcoin is firmly in a new uptrend on the relative strength index, given that we have seen a breakout from this trend line, higher highs as well as higher lows. And the RSI bottomed back here in June. Even though we didn't see a low from that as in terms of a price standpoint, we have seen about 6 months go by since that bottom, which really tells me that this is a convincing low given how long we have been holding it and given the strength that we have seen over the last few weeks. So the last thing that I do want to talk about is this idea that we have a longer term fake out, a longer term deviation setting up on this weekly chart with a move below that $18,000 level. And when I say deviation, I'm really referring to the fact that we had this breakdown with that FTX news, that FTX crash, and we saw the move on a weekly candle closing basis back below this level, creating lower lows and losing the support in June. But we really didn't see any fall through. Yes, we did have a few weeks kind of rejecting off this. We didn't see any bearish continuation, and price didn't want to accept below this level given that we saw the reclaim just a few weeks later and it wasn't flipped into resistance. And this is actually a very similar pattern, technically speaking, to what we saw at the all-time high. And it's basically the reverse situation where we had this level of resistance on the first peak in April of 2021, and then the move right here in October and November of 2021 did technically come back above this, but price didn't actually accept. We didn't see any continuation or fall through, and in fact, we came right back under that level. Same thing, but inverted. So you can see how similar these moves are with the first attempt, and then the fake out, and the first attempt, and the fake out. Really just reverse, and you can see how powerful the moves have been in the opposite direction once you do get that fake out and that failed attempt at a continuation of the longer term trend. So I am definitely seeing a lot of bullish signs here on this weekly chart. And before I finish up the video, I did want to sort of throw out my case for when this all gets invalidated, and I would say that we do still have a continuation of the bearish trend, because there's always going to be risks involved with Bitcoin, and this is certainly no guarantees that we have to have a bear market low end or that we have to have reversed this big downtrend from November of 2021. And that invalidation point really comes on a move coming back on a closing basis below the $17,600 low. That invalidates the thesis that this is a fake out, because when you do have a retest or coming back below that, you really don't see that typically when you get those fake outs. Same thing right here that we had in the top. We didn't really see an attempt at getting back above to that $69,000 region. So it's very rare an occasion that we do see sort of that second failed attempt. So if we do lose that $17,600 18K region, that's when I am going to be invalidated, and that's when I would cut this longer term thesis that Bitcoin has ended this bearish decline. So I hope you guys did enjoy the content and the analysis. By the way, make sure to check out my Twitter page. I will leave a link to that in the description below. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.